Well, rabbis, I've just been notified that our two special guests have arrived. Congregation Micah, we are blessed to have with us this morning two characteristics of God, Adonai, known in the Jewish tradition as justice, and Elohim, the divine attribute of compassion or mercy on this side. Friends, these aspects of God work in tandem, believe it or not. Justice holds people accountable for their actions, while compassion activates within us the emotional responses of empathy and concern for the suffering of others. Justice provides the framework for fair and equal treatment, ensuring that compassion doesn't overlook necessary systemic changes needed to address the ills of society. Together, they create a holistic approach to life, solving fundamental issues in our world and in our own souls. Known in the Jewish tradition for working God's will in human relationships, Adonai, the divine manifestation of justice, you are all about fostering fairness. Welcome to this discussion. Welcome to Micah.
Thank you so much for having me this morning on such a sacred day. I know this community values honesty and integrity and working to make this world a better place. It's a real treat to be here among so many people who value the pursuit of justice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on this side, known for his empathetic energy and profound spiritual presence, Elohim, the divine expression of compassion, can fill your heart with kindness and help you release negativity. Are you seeking forgiveness? Are you in search of emotional healing? Compassion's transformative wisdom and loving assistance are just a prayer away. Welcome.
I'm honored to be here. Mercy is not for the weak. It's the truest form of strength and love. Today is a day to let go of grudges, to embrace forgiveness. I came to Micah today during these times of great distress to bring solace and restoration. I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Now, justice. Sometimes people ask for your help to overcome mistreatment and get the respect they deserve. You resolve conflicts in relationships using impartiality as your moral compass, and you solve stressful problems in mutually beneficial ways by helping folks remain true to their convictions under pressure. How are you able to bring such order out of chaos?
People can direct their anger at injustice in any number of ways. I encourage them to do it constructively. I am the motivating force in the universe that helps people overcome evil with good.
Oh, Lord, have mercy. Cantor Josh, I've worked with her for years. She is relentless about this accountability thing. She certainly doesn't cut me any slack.
Hold on. Let's not diminish the need to empower individuals to solve problems on a personal level. Actions like lying and neglect, oppression, gossip and slander, harassment, these eat at the very core of our characters and require attention, not slack.
All right. Well, this is going to be a lively discussion today. Today is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and it's supposed to act as a profound and transformative spiritual experience, offering unique opportunities to heal by forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. Do either of you have any tangible advice on how to accomplish this difficult task?
Sure. At some point today, find a quiet space. Sit comfortably, take some very deep breaths. Visualize mercy surrounding you, providing comfort and protection. Be excessively gentle with yourself. Allow your heart to be filled with compassion so that you can forgive those who have wronged you. It's difficult to traverse the world without offending anyone. Give yourself and others the benefit of the doubt so that you can forgive yourself in addition to pardoning others.
Helping others is a deeply transformative experience. The great Rabbi Tarfon once said, "It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it." Working towards building a more just society is at the core of what it means to be Jewish.
Don't let holding others accountable prevent you from forgiving them. Even if people who have wronged you don't apologize, even if they don't deserve it, forgive them anyway, because your own soul deserves peace.
Interesting. Now, some say that you, Compassion, were here last week during the moment of ultimate sacrifice, that you were the angel that stopped Abraham from slaughtering his beloved son Isaac. So if that's true, you saved us all. If Isaac had been killed, none of us would have been Jewish. Was that really you?
No comment. Well, Let's just say I love turning pain into peace. Whether you're grappling with personal struggles or seeking a deeper sense of harmony with others in your life, I'm the part of the Jewish tradition that acts like a beacon of hope. And a theological definition of hope is that you want to anticipate a world you want to live in. Allow my gentle guidance to illuminate your path. Today invites us all to foster renewed appreciation for the power of mercy in our lives.
Well, the Jewish tradition has a rich lineage of justice and compassion. In fact, its entire history is woven with tales of moral courage and the enduring quest for human survival. Do either of you have any stories you can show how you might work together?
Well, I am reminded of an ancient parable the sages tell us about a judge. The scales of justice on his desk were not just decoration. They were a tool that he used to meticulously weigh the facts of a case.
Yes, I recall this story. The judge was fair, but not flexible. He saw only the letter of the law, not the life that animated it.
But then one gray morning, an elderly woman stood before him, her hands trembling. She was accused of stealing bread and cheese from a merchant's stall. The merchant, a wealthy man, demanded the maximum penalty.
The woman was honest. She did not deny her crime. But she explained, her voice barely in a whisper, that her grandson was sick and hungry, a child, and all he wanted was a little fresh bread. The judge listened, his expression unchanged.
The law was clear. Theft was punishable by a fine equal to 10 times the stolen goods, or 10 days in the stockade if the fine could not be paid. She had no money.
The judge, with a deep loyalty to justice, was consumed with mercy. And he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a gold coin, declaring that he would pay the fine on her behalf. The court was stunned.
The judge explained, "This crime is a stain on our city. It shows that in our prosperity, some are left to starve. Who wants to live in a city where a grandmother must steal to feed her grandchild?"
The whole city was responsible for the failure, prospering while others suffer. The judge employed both justice and mercy, pointing to the cause, not just the crime.
So, are there any specific Jewish activities you recommend that can help maintain the balance?
Mitzvot matter. The deeds we do define our identity. Light candles on Shabbos. Sing with your Micah community, not just today, all year long. Show up for others. Visit the sick, comfort mourners, give tzedakah, charity. Emulate God's compassion by extending mercy and forgiveness to all.
I agree, and that doesn't always happen with us. Actions rooted in tikkun olam, repairing the world, make the world a better place and you a better person. But I'm also concerned with injustice on a large scale, fighting prejudice, discrimination, and inequality in the world so that goodwill will triumph over evil. Honestly, I wish I could more effectively guide world leaders to make wise decisions about governing the regions that are under their authority.
Well, that's a perfect segue into a difficult topic, the Israel-Hamas conflict, especially following the events of October 7th. This war is one of the most polarizing and complex geopolitical issues in the world right now. Do you think Israel is acting in just and compassionate ways?
I do. Let's remember who started all of this. Hamas's October 7th attacks were brutal. Over 1,200 people, mostly civilians, were killed. Women raped, babies burned, 251 people kidnapped, many of them now dead, and 48 hostages remain in captivity almost 2 years later. This unprovoked act of terrorism left Israel with no choice but to respond militarily to dismantle Hamas's terrorist regime and prevent future attacks. In essence, Israel's actions were in self-defense. It is a modern-day example of good versus evil.
Compassion, do you have a response?
I do. The immense scale of Palestinian casualties, including tens of thousands killed and wounded, many of them women and children, it's a disproportionate response. It lacks the mercy inherent in the Jewish tradition. The extensive damage to Gaza's infrastructure, including destructions of homes and hospitals and schools, it's an outcome of collective punishment against Palestinian civilians, not just Hamas. The humanitarian crisis is dire, and widespread displacement, the spread of disease, a massive death toll. What is Jewish about that?
Wait a second. We know that Hamas steals food, medicine, and supplies, using its own civilians as human shields. They make no secret about that. What's compassionate about that? They freely admit that their strategy is to cause as much suffering as possible to their own people, so as to place Israel under such heavy international pressure that it will eventually permit Hamas to survive and fight another day. In all other wars, soldiers fight above ground, protecting their population. But in Gaza, Hamas hides underground, purposefully exposing Palestinian civilians to the full impact of war. Such is the level of depravity that Israel is facing.
And still, with all the hypocrisy and the duplicity and the insincerity, it is not wrong for the critics of the Israeli government to constantly remind us of the human cost of war and to expect Israel to minimize casualties as much as possible, doing all it can to prevent hunger and disease.
I am all for compassion, but even you must admit that one of the most heartbreaking disappointments of the past 2 years is how little sympathy Israelis receive from the very people who tell us day and night of their unwavering commitment to humanitarian values. More Jews were murdered on October 7th than any day since the Holocaust. And it took but a few days for the protests to erupt worldwide against Israel and against Jews. Demands for a ceasefire rang out while terrorists were still rampaging in Israeli towns. Has it ever dawned on the protesters to insist that Hamas release the hostages they stole? Even the Arab League recently demanded it. To this day, the war would end in a matter of hours if it did, if they did. The self-righteous sanctimony of some Palestinian activists is reprehensible. The scholars and professors and university students, brilliant but morally deficient, justified and glorified the massacres, the sexual assaults, and the kidnappings as some noble fight for liberation. Was the lead story 2 weeks after 9/11 focused on the distress of Afghanis? Did the world care as much about German casualties 2 days after D-Day as they did about Palestinians?
No, but maybe they should have. Much of what you say is true, Justice, but it breaks my merciful heart, and it does not release us from our moral responsibilities. You can strongly support Israel, oppose some of its policies, and still acknowledge the moral complexities and human suffering of war. Even if the war is just, there are no good wars. The longer the war, the more the Jewish heart calcifies. To paraphrase Nietzsche, one who fights too long against dragons becomes a dragon. I don't want the hearts of Israelis or American Jews to become so cold and hard to the brutalities of war that they grow dragon scales.
Have you ever been to Auschwitz or to Birkenau? The world has seen what happens to Jews when they don't have an army to protect them. Where was compassion on October 7th? It wasn't in the kibbutzim, not at the Nova Music Festival. It is better for Jews to have the power and agonize over its moral use than to be powerless and at the mercy of terrorists. It is not a sin to be strong, nor is a weakness a virtue. The whitewashing and cleansing of Hamas's horrendous crimes in the name of some misbegotten philosophy of liberation is a profound moral defect, and it's not just at all. And just because you are the underdog, it does not make you the good guy.
The use of force is morally perilous, and it's never pure. Even in the most just wars, innocent people suffer and die. No mercy there.
We are both expressions of God. We both love the Holy Land. Can we agree that Israel is a country founded like so many other countries in the 20th century? It required sacrifice and war and bloodshed.
It's also a miracle. The greatest story ever told. Exile and return, exile and return. It's at the heart of the Torah. When the Jews are righteous, we prosper. And when we are not...
Mercy, mercy, mercy. Cry, uncle, all you want. Israel was not founded on moonbeams and unicorns. No country is. I may favor justice and you compassion, but let's agree that Jews everywhere are exhausted. It is tiring to have to make the case for Israel at war after 2 years. It has worn us all down. It's okay to hold these complicated views and still say, I care deeply about Israel and the Jewish people.
It's true that we are both unapologetic Zionists. We can disagree and agree about this policy or that policy, but we can still treat Israelis like family members, which is to say that family members make mistakes, but you give family the benefit of the doubt. You attempt to understand the context of what they said and did, and you try to forgive them instead of just writing them off.
The Torah says, tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice you shall pursue. And why twice? Why justice twice? Because it's essential we achieve it, plain and simple.
True, but Torah asks for justice, not revenge. The Jewish heart is large enough to contain the outrage at the way our enemies have treated us and the belief that the innocent should not suffer. Strength without compassion is not a Jewish version of strength.
Well, our world sure needs both of you. Compassion, you can inform a fair application of justice by considering context and human factors, whereas justice without compassion can lead to dehumanization and a failure to promote growth and healing.
Excuse me, there is something that balances you both. Good Yom Kippur. I'm a divine attribute of humility. Forgive me for not appearing in human form. I'm a bit bashful, shy by nature. But being humble requires acknowledging how small we are in the grand scheme of things, and yet how powerful we are in our ability to make a difference. Humility helps decision makers understand situations more deeply, leading to more wise and effective applications of justice and compassion. What the world needs now is more of me.
Wow, a third attribute of God. God must really love Congregation Micah.
One of the greatest ills of American life right now is the division that has grabbed hold of our society. Polarization is the plague of our time. It does more than just doom us to a life of uncomfortable family dinners. It's threatening to rip the world apart. Jews have a long and storied history of disagreeing with civility and respect, with humility. Since Judaism's inception, Jews have disagreed about absolutely everything. At the beginning of the Torah, we're presented two options of how creation occurred. The Talmud preserves the dissenting opinions of Hillel and Shammai. Still, we have always returned to the table to have the discussion. Not only have Jews kept the conversation going, but their friendships have also continued to grow. As the days and weeks and years of the debates and arguments roll on, we must continue to build community together. If you learn anything from the three of us this morning, it is to stay open to other viewpoints. Beware of the rush to righteousness, and remember this: empathy for the other does not betray our own convictions. It is not disloyal. We can be both brokenhearted for the suffering of the children of Isaac and of Ishmael. Indeed, we must.
Wow. Well, humility, wherever you are, thank you for reminding us to remain vulnerable to our common humanity and to treat all people with respect. Divine attributes, justice, compassion, humility. Do you have any final comments before we wrap this up?
Well, the Torah tells us to pursue justice and to do so with enthusiasm. I would say be proud of your Judaism. Don't expect your clergy or your board to be Jewish for you. Own your Judaism boldly and stay accountable to our collective past and future.
I say be humble enough to learn from others. Recognize that no one is inherently superior to anyone else. Maintain a balanced perspective that can foster respect and consideration for everyone. Listen before speaking, even when it hurts, and leave space for other viewpoints.
Practice compassion. Don't let empathy be a liability when seeking accountability. It's better to be guilty of giving undeserved love than undeserved hate.
Well, Well, 3 manifestations of God all in one space at the same time.
Amazing.
Let me thank you all for your vulnerability, your insights, and for teaching us the importance of justice, compassion, and humility. Thank you very much.